Will you be able to join for a couple of hours or cocktail or no?
So
No,
That's fine.
unfortunately not.
Yeah.
No worries.
I have to go to Houston tomorrow.
Yeah.
We have our landing on the moon on Thursday, so now that we launched and we're in lunar orbit, I have to go to Houston to land.
Okay.
that is literally the best excuse I've ever heard.
Yeah, I'm landing on the moon.
Yeah. Welcome to Cloud Realities, an original podcast from Capgemini, and we are live. Esmee, where are we?
Yes, day 3. God, it's
Home time.
It actually starts to feel like home as well.
And where are we?
Oh, sorry, we're in Barcelona still. I don't even question it. Where are we?
This is the new normal. This is the new normal.
MWC, of course.
MWC Mobile World Congress. We are on the final day.
Yes, we
the
are.
final stretch.
Yeah.
So, overall conference experience, what's it been like for you?
I think it's incredibly crowded, but with people that are hugely invested in getting those demos and understanding what's at the table and what's being presented. And that's not always the case on conferences like this. I don't know if you recognize that. How was your conference so far? What do you need to end on a high?
Do you know, I have a reflection on that before you go, Dave.
What Dave needs to end on a high?
He does need to end on a high because we did have Grumpy Dave middle, but that's normal. But what I found is being here the second time, it's about slipping on the old pair of shoes. I know where to go. I know all the secret agent routes.
It was a very smart pair of shoes.
It was a very smart pair of shoes.
Now, Robert, you adopted a dress code, which I think was interesting. It was an interesting choice. Why don't you observe the theme that you're seeing this year, sartorially?
Well, I was representing maximisation of shareholder value, David. Yeah. That's what I was doing in Friedman Economics. Now, I do remember the event being smarter, and it was, but it's now toned itself down. And I may have gone slightly over. Well, it wasn't over smart, was it? All I did was put a shirt on.
The tuxedo was not out of place.
Especially in the colour orange.
Yeah.
and silk.
And silk.
Yes, silk shirt.
Do you think it was too much? Oh, come on, guys. Actually, I bumped into Karen at the Telenor booth, and she spotted I changed my shoes from smart to casual.
She actually observed that?
Yeah, she actually observed it. She looked down and went...
Yeah, but she's a sneaker person. She had those...
Sneakers,
I think she wins Shoes of the Week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly what I've
Country
seen.
Mile.
Which is an important award.
I think it's the accolade that everybody wants to leave with, Dave.
I'd be pleased about it. We've obviously... we'll get to the telecom stuff in a minute. But we've obviously been doing another scientific survey this week, consumer advice, based on Robert's preferences around the Tapas framework. I'm
not hopeful. No. I'm going to come out well.
I mean, we're nearly there. A couple more. We've got quite a few people on today's show, which we'll come to in a second.
Can I be honest? The trend.
It's not trending well.
It's not trending well for me anyway.
No. And last night we went out for dinner.
We did.
We went to a steak place, which Marcel found for us. It's a good place, wasn't it?
It was very nice.
Was amazing.
It was tremendous food. Now, what did you order, Robert?
I ordered the special barbecue, David, which is 400 grams of meat.
It looked like more than 400 grams.
It did, and it was 5 different meats and chicken and sausages and things like that. Yeah.
Now, in percentage terms... You had that all to yourself. There was no sharing.
No sharing was needed.
In fact, when I showed a bit of interest in one of the sausages, you were quick to say, hands off. So there was a no sharing rule around your board.
Yeah. It's normal, though. You're used to that now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Don't even know why you bothered asking.
No, it's fair. But in percentage terms, how much of that board did you actually eat?
30%.
I mean, I would say, if that.
I think I got maybe 30%. Yeah.
So I think you could have considered sharing. No. Even then, rather throw it out
at the end if you want it. That's fine.
Like leftovers.
But while I'm eating, you might take something that I really want to eat.
Now, there was a common thing that
somebody's listening to this agreeing with me. By the way.
I mean, feel free to write to us on what our old school snail mail. What is it again? cloudrealities@capgemini.com. Please let us know.
If you share my view of not sharing, please let us know.
Because so far, let's face it, not many people have agreed. But, you never know. Still got a show left
I
here.
hold out hope.
This might be something that people are just a bit hesitant to express.
They don't want to be social pariahs.
I just want to have that.
They just agree.
Could be.
They're just not confident enough.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's leave that open.
Now, the other thing that happened last night, which was pretty impressive, is Marcel won €15 from me in a bet.
He's got a very low bar of financial incentive to do something stupid.
He didn't even counter.
I know, there wasn't even a negotiation.
No.
They just
Well,
did it.
because I offered you €10 to start with. You obviously were not up for it at all.
Yeah, no, I have dignity, and
Yeah.
it's going to cost you a lot more for me to sacrifice it.
€15 though, Marcel.
Yeah,
Entire sausage in your mouth.
yeah. Black pudding.
But you didn't even, you didn't even finish your sentence.
He was in there.
It was
15, and it was already in
he
there.
had the spectre
I
of
think
€15.
he was just waiting for the opportunity
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
Still not been paid, so I'm disappointed.
It was, but what was quite interesting was it was well within your capability. There was no.
He had that. It looked practiced to me, Rob.
It was a small sausage. Black pudding, never.
But it wasn't though, Marcel,
No.
was it? It wasn't.
For the record, it definitely wasn't a small sausage. All of it in though.
It was like at speed. At speed.
It was terrific.
And 15 pounds in the pocket.
Euros.
Yeah.
Oh, you're.
No, pounds.
Euros.
Euros.
Yeah. No euros. I'm paying in euros. 1.12 is the exchange rate. All right. So yeah, it's been a week. It has been a week. There's also been a tremendous amount of conversation this week on many different things. Like I think MWC. It started its life as a telecommunications industry conference, but of course it's grown way beyond that. The role of the telco itself has become really interesting in the current world. We talked a lot about that yesterday with Nvidia and with Telenor. That's resonant right across the conference, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think diversification. We've always seen telcos want to diversify. A lot of them got into media and such like. But this is offering the market new services at an enterprise level, which I think is quite interesting. And I think they're rowing back from the world where they were pushed into the corner and commoditized, and they're starting to move around the value chain, which is quite important.
The other thing that's live in the conference is consumer. We're going to talk about that a bit towards the end of the show, but yeah, consumer very prevalent, I think.
Yeah. So a lot of innovation in the technology for the consumer handset, I think. And we'll discuss it later, but there's some very interesting things that have happened.
Absolutely.
It's a cliffhanger to wait for, isn't it?
Leave that as a bit of an open end. So look, let's get into today's show. I'm delighted to say to start with, we've got Oliver Buschmann, who's the head of strategy at Ericsson. After that, we have got a very special way to end the week, a round table with 4 special guests. First of all, Thierry Klein, President of Bell Labs Solutions Research at Nokia Bell Labs, Heather Tulk, President of Commercial and Public Sector at Telus, and Ash Surti, CDIO at Colt. And joining us from Capgemini is Praveen Shankar, who is overall head of the telecoms industry vertical. So let's get into it then, and let's go to our conversation with Oliver Buschmann. I'm delighted to say that joining us is Oliver Buschmann, VP and Head of Strategy at Ericsson. Oliver, how are you?
Very good.
Amazing to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
And how have you found Barcelona so far? I assume you've been to this thing a million times before, or is this a first time at MWC?
No, that's not the first time. I actually
Conference
worked in
veteran.
Barcelona many years ago.
Yes.
20 years ago, I actually worked in Barcelona. Then many times here in Mobile World Congress. I actually studied in Spain, so I have some relations also to the country.
Right.
So I really like to be here, see all the colleagues, the friends, meeting a lot of colleagues. So it's really, really good, exciting.
So you must have, over that period of time, you must have seen quite some change in MWC. What are your reflections on that?
That's a very good question. Maybe not too long time frame, but just from the last couple of years. Of course, as a strategy head, you kind of think forward, kind of what the next thing should be, and quite exciting to see that a lot of these things are coming to life now.
Right.
So we have talked about how do we get differentiation in the market, how do we get network APIs flying, how do we get AI in the market. I think all of this are really coming now, and it's really getting to life. So that's exciting to see.
And what do you think about the atmosphere? Because one of the things we've observed this week is like a real growing in confidence from telco organizations who are seeing, the world maybe change a little bit to see things like sovereign networks, sovereign data, sovereign cloud and AI become very much part of the agenda, very much part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Ability to move services up the stack. We're going to talk a bit about that later on, I think. But I do sense a growing in confidence of the industry.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think there's a growing confidence. I think there's more talk about growth. There's more kind of excitement about kind of the future. So I see it as a positive note.
Yeah.
Of the show here.
Very much so. The other thing I observe, I mean, beyond MWC becoming, it's much less about a telecoms conference now, much more like a full-on technology conference, isn't it? From consumer on one side all the way through to platform organizations and integrators and all kinds of different people are reflected here. But to me, it seems there's almost like a sense of acting like a microcosm of a wider industry. So yes, it can be telecom centric. Yeah. And a lot of our shows this week where we've been talking to,
it is,
telecoms folks, but they're talking about issues that aren't just related to the telecoms vertical.
Yeah. Yeah, that has also changed a lot for us, I would say. The past, it was more like just telco in itself. Yeah, now we're really opening the network towards others to build on top of it, like with our apps, with network APIs.
Right.
So the ecosystem gets a lot bigger. Yeah. So we in our booth alone have like about 70 plus partners working with us, and it's a lot about co-development, show together how it really works. So I fully agree. This has really increased a lot.
We discussed it in the NVIDIA one, where it's more, there's been an evolution in thinking about how you can do technology, and the platform thinking's rising, so the ability to abstract with the platform, build on other people's good work. And we see a lot more of that model being built in as well. So take that and then go on top, and everything as code right through the stack. Yeah, that codification of the networks being a big theme that feels like with all the announcements, it's happening now. It's being deployed, like you say.
And it feels much more as a platform, right? A platform for many industries to build on top of it, from our apps to enterprises to mission critical to developers actually that use it for example, for broadcasting. So it's coming a lot bigger ecosystem around it.
So maybe let's start our conversation by just talking about the technology advancement that's happening. Rob just talked about it, and you referenced it. The notion of programmable network is very much in the conversation this week. Obviously, AI has been very large in our conversations this week too. It's unavoidable on the conference floor, I think it's fair to say.
True.
So just walk us through your lens of what this is taking in an industry where, it requires capital investment. It's legacy and physical equipment heavy. So what's the journey been like to get to a point where programmable networking, for example, is an offering?
Yeah. Like for us, it's a lot about how do we really create growth in the industry? And so how do you really do this when it's largely was just best effort connectivity for smartphones? So really drive growth by expanding it to many other areas. So basically it's one network, but many, many use cases. And that goes from new use cases like fixed wireless access to AI, to AR, to enterprises, mission critical, defense, so many other industries where we actually expand the network to. And make that much more differentiated. So if you, for example, do, let's say, live broadcasting here, like others already do, so it's a very different service, right? It's a service that has super high uplink, super reliable. That's a different service. And these kind of services we really want to enable and allow our customers to be much more segmented and much more offering for a certain service. And that's really the thinking behind programmable networks. So the programmable networks essentially is kind of one network for many different services, and then make it really differentiatable so that a network can offer certain quality of service for, let's say, broadcasting or for a mission critical network. So it actually can have different ways to offer this.
And it's a good way to think about the commercial model of how you present the network back to wider industry, isn't it? So you can change the way people view the network from what it can do for them, but also you can charge differently and help, change that whole underlying, economic structure that it feels like telcos have been boxed into the corner with the best effort, just everybody. It's just a thing you use, and now you can start to create higher order services off the back of it.
Yes, I agree. I think that's really an opportunity for telcos, really to augment their existing business model. So it was pretty much just, in the past, it was just you kind of grow by selling SIMs to a lot of phones.
More
right?
customers. It was linear growth, one more customer tick, another one.
Exactly. And then we had a whole phase of how do you get to the lowest cost per gigabyte?
Yeah.
Right? And I think now we're in a phase which is much more around expansion and differentiation. And then you offer more almost like in the airline industry, right? You don't have just economy to buy. You have an economy, you have a business class, you have a first class, so you can actually change that. And it's not just more gigabyte. It can be speed, it can be uplink, it can be latency, so there are different things to connect it to. And we also think the business model has an opportunity to be more dynamic or in the moment. Like, for example, if you're in an event, you just pay for a great experience in the event itself. So it's like time-bound.
Right.
Or you link it to, let's say, an AR device that's more like an application-based. We basically link it to different, where people actually need it.
You can see a consumer angle on that. For the next 2 hours, I need a different style of network because I'm doing a particular job, and you just pay for that, and then it drops back to the level. Yeah, it's quite an interesting new change because you can imagine a number of just personal use cases where you go, no, I do want a better service for the next period of time.
I would think that it will actually require also a different mindset, because if you're so used to just from SIM cards to now services that are differentiating and are really personal, and what did you do on that level as a company?
Now, that's a good question because it's a very fundamental shift, although I think it's more an augmentation than a substitution. I think in the business area, it's relatively easy. So you could say, I'll do a broadcasting service. So I do a portal, say you can click on it, okay, on this location, in this time frame, I want this service. Okay, now this is your price for it. So that's kind of relatively well doable. You can do it for point of sales terminals, for example, as well. I think where it gets more difficult is on the consumer side. So I think that's really just starting. We see now some premium services coming up, like, for example, in the US. We see them in Singapore, in China, for example. They have it for influencers, for example, for gamers, where they offer a premium service.
Right.
And so right now it's more like a premium service, could be per month, but then it could be then much more dynamic, I think, in the future. But at least what we can see, it's been tried out. It seems to work. So it gets traction. And also our research shows that there's really demand and really willingness to pay for these kind of services.
What does it actually mean as a consumer to get a more premium service? How does it show up to me? And in what way is it different?
Yeah, that's I think what we have to figure out. Right now it's trials, I would say.
Sure.
So you see a bunch of efforts that offered a premium service, more per month right now. Then they offer really more for user groups, like, for example, for influencers. You can actually buy it also premium, which is quite high premium if you think about it. In China, it's almost 2x the price they would pay normally for influencers, just for a better uplink, for do live broadcasting. So you could buy it from the carrier. But I can also think of much more flexible models where you buy it in the moment. Like you go to a concert, either you buy it with a ticket or you go on the concert and I think I want to do some uploading from my friends here. And then you kind of click on it.
Just on the moment.
Yeah.
And it's the whole thing that's coming to the consumer market now with the eSIM technology. You can now buy, 20 days.
eSIM for this conference.
Yeah, eSIM for this.
Came packaged with the conference.
But you get local data off a local provider. It's it's free for this one, but you can go anywhere. And it's that you can flip it. People are much more used to say flipping the service that they want to use because they need it for the local capability or whatever. So there's a lot of that. So the consumer's willing to change mode more, I think, as well. That's a behaviour that I've seen rise.
Well, I'm struck by the analogy of different classes on an aeroplane. Rob, for example, only likes to fly business class. So what would be the offering for somebody who wanted premium all the time, do you think? I think that's what you've got.
Yeah, it's just mega capacity, low latency, Always
like,
my packet first. My packet first. That's me what I'd call it.
There you go.
Your packet first.
There you go. There's your marketing.
Yeah, and it depends on what you want to do with it, right? If you want to do, like, let's say, live broadcasting, okay, no, that's your service that you mentioned, right? High uplink, low latency, it's super reliable. But you could also think of like very just low effort or low bandwidth.
Oh, so you drop down a tier.
Yeah. So it depends on the service you want to offer. Yeah.
So you could get it all the time, high upload, and you could just stream everything.
Oh, you mean
Truman Show
just
style.
put a camera on my head? I mean, do you think there'd be a market for that, Dave? Do you mean you really honestly think about that?
I mean, I
can't imagine it myself. Can I be honest? No.
Maybe on the dark web.
But I bet you somebody has probably done that or is trying to do it or will do it.
I think there have been already.
Yeah, we have somebody running around here from Pierce Network. Actually, that does exactly that. So he's used that service, broadcasting.
Yeah.
And then we have that collaboration together with Sony that actually uses exactly that service.
Oh, there you go. See, now what is interesting is I'll come home from this conference and I'll get like a load of questions about what did you do, who did you meet, where did you go. Well, that's all reasonable. I could just, if I had an uplink that was permanently on, I could just show the highlights reel and use AI to edit it and then just play that for the family and then I just drink a glass of wine in the corner.
Now we're talking.
Now that's a use case I'll take.
Hopefully that's been helpful. Okay, let's move on. We've sort of got there a little bit, but the new wave of innovations in the world of mobile.
Yes.
Obviously, it's sweet spot for you guys. What's coming up, and what are you seeing at the moment?
Yeah. So maybe we highlight a few of these. So you link to certain use cases that are coming up for the network. So one is obvious. It's fixed wireless access. So basically broadband over the wireless network. That's already scaling quite well.
Yeah.
I think it's even underestimated. When you look at the numbers, it's roughly 11% now of all broadband connections already. It grows about 3 times faster at fiber. And it's already in many networks 30 to 50% of the traffic. So it is already scaling very well.
Right.
In many markets across the world. So that's kind of an obvious one. That's scaling already. And operators making good money with that. I think when we think in a few years forward, you probably see not just AI, like AI glasses that we have right now, Meta, for example. I think that's a very interesting use case because you move essentially from like simple things like text in a chat box to like real conversation to much more as the system understands your environment. Like if you're like in a restaurant and you see like what's the right vegetarian dish, I mean, that gives you directly the answer.
I've got the use case for that. You know what bugs me a lot post-COVID? When you go to a restaurant and they don't have a proper menu, you have to use the QR code.
QR code, yeah.
Drives me crazy.
We went to one last night and he wasn't happy. He was in a grump for a good 5 minutes. What do you mean I have to download my menu?
And they're usually like awful interfaces and stuff like that.
But it's a nice you walk in and they say, you're at this restaurant, you probably want this menu. It's like, it should be done for you, shouldn't it?
Yes. But to your point, you had the old smart glasses on.
Yeah, would know.
You looked at the QR code, could all just... Now that feels more integrated to me than messing about with your phone.
Yeah. And the good thing is to even go one step further. It doesn't even only show you the menu. It actually answers questions for you. Like it knows you're a vegetarian. Okay, here's the dish for you.
Or it knows that you actually have to lose some weight, and then it's already gonna preset it. You need to have this dish.
Sorry,
do you want me
Dave,
to
you
order
can't
it?
have that steak tonight
Not
because you're
mentioning
on a
any names.
diet. Pulse beans for you.
I wouldn't be happy about that. That feels like it's making
nanny state stuff.
Correct. It's making decisions on my behalf.
Or
it might say like you've had enough wine.
Or it might say I'm not showing you the route to that restaurant because it's too much saturated fat, so I'm going to send you here instead. That's
the sort of nanny state world that we're heading towards.
It'd be healthier and happier at the end.
I think I'd have to go off grid.
Go dark.
Yeah. Hopefully this has been helpful.
Very helpful. No, I think that's a good use case.
Yeah. There you go.
The consumer health angle, I think, it's the little nudges in life where it reminds you, should you really be doing that?
No, I'm not very happy. So going back to mobile, dig us out with this one. What other use cases are you seeing in the world of mobile that are kind of, feel like where we're heading to?
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is one of them. I think it's really changing the way the network needs to behave. And I think AR is also one. I think AR is an interesting one because there's all these hype cycles, right? You say, now AR is the big thing, and then people think, oh, it didn't happen, so now it's gone. But I think that's a mistake because I think it's more a matter of when it comes.
Yeah.
It does feel like it's hovering in the background, waiting for the right hardware to me. Like, it was a shame about Vision Pro. Vision Pro didn't seem to do it, did it?
I mean, you saw some bold people driving their car in it and walking across the street and doing all the things. It does have to be more subtle in our lives. I don't think, and it's that you're right. There has to be an evolution of the technology that allows us.
Really light glasses, look like normal glasses.
Yeah.
And we think that's more in the time frame, let's say 27-ish plus, where we see like really interesting glasses coming out.
Right.
And then, of course, this is a major thing for networks because then you have to be ready, right? Because then you capture the environment, then you have set up videos to the cloud.
Absolutely.
Process it very fast back. So that has a lot of implications for the network.
And then again, it's if you arrive in a new city, you'd want a different style of service through that mechanism than like navigation and understanding and recommendation. Whereas if you're commuting, you might want, there's a problem on that line, go your other route and things like that. So then you can differentiate how you interact with the service as well.
Right. Let's pivot a little bit and talk just about the enterprise network world a little bit. We've talked a lot about the consumer world and consumer experience, but what are you seeing in the B2B world?
Yeah, we see we're finally moving, I think, from POCs to real scale in the enterprise network space. And I think the main drivers we've basically worked on making it much, much simpler.
And these are like 5G, is it 5G enabled networks for businesses? Is that what we're referring to?
5G enabled networks, exactly. And it's like, for example, in airports, in ports, a lot of use cases, in mines, you see a lot of use cases. You do see it in manufacturing.
Right.
So basically when companies want to change their manufacturing, much more flexible, then 5G is really the best solution to go for.
That private personal network, or it's focused and configured for you, that last mile configuration can be a big productivity gain for organizations. Just if you think about like heavy manufacturing, diverting somebody in the right direction at the right time can save hours and hours and avoid all sorts of mistakes, can't it? So that's a very powerful one that if you get it right, it can work very well. But it also requires all the data and the information technology to be correctly configured underneath it as well. So you have the intelligence to then be able to communicate over the network to tell the person what they need to do differently.
Yes. And it was also interesting to see that enterprise networks have a new way to be deployed. So you see right now a lot of dedicated networks, like really for a manufacturing plant, which is the right thing to do. When you think about more office spaces, you could also think about basically do more of a virtual private networks. So basically do slicing. So if you have 5G SA available, you just can slice it. And then you can offer actually a private network also for enterprises based on the macro network. And that was a very interesting use case for private and public use cases. And then it's much easier to scale. So that's, I think, another area where we think quite a bit of opportunity. And we have also here some demos which showed that, how to actually do that for example, for office spaces.
Can you foresee the end of the sort of the traditional enterprise networks? Obviously, WANs have changed enormously in the last 10, 15 years, but most offices have still got some form of wired infrastructure. How far off getting rid of that are we, do we think?
How far we get of what, do you think?
Of not needing wired infrastructure in an office building.
You just walk in and the
service is there because it's all from 5G.
Oh, that's so totally switching to 5G, you mean?
Yeah.
How far are we away?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's just totally substitution. You still have Wi-Fi networks as well. It's just a different way how to get the broadband. So you get it, for example, through the macro network. And then I think the macro network will expand and offer more and more opportunities for enterprises to then have security and everything actually included. And up to the point that you don't need somebody on the site to build like a Wi-Fi network. It's just already provisioned through the macro network. And then where it gets really interesting for enterprises to use that. So I think we're just starting.
Yeah.
We have 2 use cases around the world. Actually, also Ericsson buildings do the same.
Oh yeah.
Well, you would expect to eat your own dog food.
Our own dog food. we drink our own champagne.
Yeah, I love that.
That's always the two, isn't it?
Rob likes to drink everyone else's.
Exactly.
Did that the other night.
Yeah, and so basically, of course, you use a modem in a laptop, and then you are connected anytime. You're secure anytime. If you're in a taxi or in the office or at home, it's actually always
I would
secure.
love that experience.
Accessing a nice experience.
It's the thing about what is you got the network and there's a load of security overlays on top, and that's a load of heavy lifting for enterprises. You can bake it straight into the network and all that, and then it's a whole thing you don't have to worry about.
What seems very much to be emerging here is like differentiated elements of connectivity. So rather than just like everyone gets some sort of fairly basic base service by their SIM,
Yes.
that there are many different grades from like professional grade, large scale enterprise 5G all the way through to sort of more standard. Is that a direction you can see emerging? I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, where you can buy different grades. Obviously, Rob's always on
Super
premium
grade
connectivity.
MyPacketFirst.com. Yeah.
I agree. I think this is really where the direction of the industry is going. I think we go much more toward differentiated services that offer that for like mission critical or XR or fixed wireless. There are a lot of different services that have different packages, different pricing, but it's actually one programmable network that makes it available.
Yeah, different world, isn't it? And actually, just sort of extending that point a little bit as well for the telcos themselves. One of the things that's become clear because of what's going on in the world at the moment, because of the nature of the physical infrastructures that they hold, and all of those sorts of things, that they're enabling themselves to get into growth in different ways, like moving beyond connectivity and into different things. It sounds like you're seeing the same sort of patterns emerging, and where do you see that going?
Yeah, that's also really one of the key drivers, I think, of growth. We have invested very early in network APIs as a key enabler for this. And where we see use cases like really going beyond connectivity is, for example, in fraud prevention. So you can do, for example, authentication, identification. You can do a SIM swap test. So if you're a bank and you want to secure your transaction, that is kind of a way that the network can actually do that for the end user. Makes it much more secure. We see that in already many markets in the world happening. So I think that looks quite good. It has capabilities like location services. You could use for drones, for example. If you don't, emergency drones, and you want to know, like, of course, exactly where it is. You can do it in manufacturing plants as well. So you can do geofencing. You can do age verification. So a lot of these things are now emerging. And I think having quite a bit of growth potential for operators.
There's a big thing in there about we've struggled with the concept of proving identity, and we've got some very clunky traditional ways. Proving identity through the mobile phone, I think, is a fantastic vehicle to simplify or lower what I would call digital friction.
Yes.
So it's done for you, whereas at the moment there's codes and pins and 2FA and things, which are all important and they need to work, but it's you take a load of that heavy lifting out of the system. The phone's used biometric identification or something like that. It knows it's you, and then it's all integrated much more seamlessly.
Yes, and it's a win-win, right? For the end user, much simpler. I don't need to type in any numbers anymore. That's gone. And also for the bank, it's better, but because it's more secure. There's no intermediate in between, so it's just better for fraud prevention.
So that means Marcel's going to have to change his banking password from
password 123.
From bank 123 exclamation mark.
Better not do that, right?
You put a special character at the end.
Capital B though.
Extra secure.
Yeah. So look, maybe to just bring us to a bit of a conclusion, in terms of navigating the next couple of years, choose your time frame. It's very difficult to go 6 months or 5 years these days, isn't it? Because things are moving so quickly.
Yeah.
But what do you see the next 18 months or so looking like?
That's a good question. I mean, the real thing that gets real scale in the next 18 months, I would say, are, so one is that the network APIs, actually, they gain scale now, like fraud prevention and these kind of use cases. I think differentiated connectivity will take probably a little bit longer to get. I think the business side, it will scale, but in the consumer side, I would say it's probably a little bit longer. And I think what will happen really in the next 18 months is autonomous networks, but in the sense of on the journey towards the kind of level 4, it's not that everything will be done in 18 months, but we do have a lot of these use cases from like embedded in the RAN, energy consumption reduction to like orchestration, operations, all of these things are happening. You get real benefits actually now already with customers implemented. Of course, until you get then the real level 4, level 5, that will take, of course, a number of years to get it like through the full network implemented. But I think we'll see a lot of good advantages in that side. And also the new technology like agentic AI coming in. So really it's changing the way we design networks. So I think that will start in the next 18 months as well.
The agentic network engineer, there you go. The design's done for you. You just talk to it about your new service and it goes and sorts it all out for you.
Literally though, like when you connect agentic to programmable networks, it's literally going to happen.
I think it's going to happen. I mean, it's kind of obvious that it's kind of a great use case for it.
Yeah.
But it's, of course, will be very hard to implement because you have to be not just 95% good, not 99%, you have to be really, really, really good. I think that will take some time to get word.
Yeah.
Well, we watch with interest. Now, before we let you go, we have been conducting a very important survey with all of our guests this week, which is, how do you feel about tapas? Now, the food area, you can feel free to comment on one way or another, but what we're really interested in getting to the heart of is the sharing experience with food. Is that a preference to the standard you can order your own food? So where do you stand on tapas? It's helping us develop a framework.
Oh, I love tapas.
Yes.
I love sharing, sitting with friends,
Yes.
colleagues.
Sorry, Rob.
Most non-psychopaths do.
Good tapas. Right place here in Barcelona.
Yeah.
I love jamón ibérico. What do you think? Is that the right one?
Yeah,
that is indeed correct.
I've not come out well again, have I, Dave?
I mean, Rob, the odds are against you at this point.
They are. I don't think there's much hope really left, is there?
Maybe you should explain it to Oliver. What's the reason behind it?
I'm not a tapas food, social interaction, great, but it's the old sharing of food and the anxiety associated with it. And there's always somebody who turns up and just hoovers it all up, and everybody's sat there going, "Well, did you leave any for the rest of us?" That's it, innit? It's not fair, Dave. I'm on the side of fairness.
So we're actually helping get to the root cause
like
for you,
therapy.
Aren't we?
This is like
we've got to right now.
We're working through undiagnosed trauma around eating.
We've worked our way through some of the basics of I just don't like sharing. So we're getting to the nub of it.
I don't want to go hungry. That's it, though, isn't it?
It is, but it was delicious. We had tapas the other night, and we had oh my god, what anchovies in sherry vinegar. They were delicious. Honestly, they were really nice, and we shared them without issue.
Yeah, and
Rob wasn't there that evening.
No, I didn't. I was late.
Rob was not there. That's important.
That's right. I would have been outside in a mood, but.
Anyway, look, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us, Oliver. It was really nice to see you.
Thank you very much. What a pleasure.
And we're rounding off our week at MWC in Barcelona in 2025 with a round table. An amazing group of individuals who are joined together that are going to give us some reflections on some of the themes of MWC 2025. So let me quickly introduce our panel today. I'm going to start with Thierry Klein. Thierry is the president of Bell Labs Solutions Research at Nokia Bell Labs. Thierry, you good?
Yeah, all good. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. We've also got Heather Tulk, who's president commercial and public sector at Telus. Hi, Heather.
Hi, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to see you. And then finally, the man who's just made a mad dash through the halls of the conference centre here in Barcelona. We've got a returning guest, Ash Surti, Chief Digital Information Officer at Colt. How are you doing, Ash?
I'm really good, and I've done about 15,000 steps so far today. So well done, Ash. Well done.
I mean, that's pretty good going, isn't it? And then you may have just heard him there, but we have got our co-host, Praveen's back. Praveen, how you doing, dude?
Not bad. Am I a co-host or am I a guest?
In this, you can straddle.
Okay, I'll just flip between the host and the
between
guest.
the host and the guest.
I'll do that.
You can definitely do it. I've seen you perform. You can do this.
You want to see the pictures?
Yeah. So good to see you all. Good to see you all. First of all, how's MWC been for you this year? Has it been markedly different? Any big things that have happened this year that you haven't seen in other years?
I was surprised a bit about the AI story. I mean, I've not heard that one before.
No, you hardly hear anything
It's
about
new
it.
and fangled.
Yeah. You hardly hear anything about AI. How about you, Heather? Anything this year that stood out that's different from in MWC? Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's great seeing the evolution of things. I had the same comment. You know, you come to MWC, it starts out everything's internet, everything's digital, everything's big data, everything's IoT. 2025, everything's AI.
Yeah. It's funny the way that goes, isn't it? And then within our agentic as well, we've gone from Gen AI to agentic AI in the blink of an eye. Anything major stood out for you, Thierry?
No, I think it's also AI, and I think it's been as busy as ever for me. So I always have regrets that I'm not walking the halls as much as I can, and it's just back-to-back meetings, and all the discussions have really been wonderful. But yeah, AI, and certainly from the Bell Labs research side, it always comes like, what are you guys doing on AI, and what's the future of AI, and how does it all work? So that's definitely coming a lot more this year.
Yeah, I bet. And Praveen, what's standing out for you?
I would say, yes, AI is everywhere. But one of the things that really stood out for me was the ecosystem collaboration. Now I can see more and more stories where telcos are not just going alone, but going beyond their own, what they do, and talking a lot about how they are working along with the ecosystem partners, how they're orchestrating the ecosystem to give tangible solutions for their clients. So that stood out for me. And of course, AI was everywhere, yes.
Well, let's maybe pick up on that type of theme of collaboration, which is evident. I think it is in a lot of conversations at the moment, and it's of course generally tied to like growth and growth opportunities. And I wonder, maybe Heather, I'll come to you first. When you're thinking about growing revenue now beyond basic connectivity, what's in your mind, and what's your organization doing to sort of respond to the wider set of opportunities that things like AI are presenting to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. For us, we really set out on the path to diversify beyond connectivity a number of years ago. So it's not a new story for us at all. And we took a little bit of a different approach, maybe from some of the other global telcos, where we stood back a number of years ago and thought about where can we diversify that also meets our social purpose. So we really looked at what do we do well, and what we do well is digitization, enabling companies and consumers through digitization.
Right.
And then we specifically doubled down where we thought, well, why don't we bring that skill to solving the biggest problems? So one of them is really around customer experience digitization. And we've done a tremendous amount with that. And we have a major global play around that in our Telus digital division. And that we're really, and we'll talk about, I'm sure later, we are really going hard at AI in that and providing AI solutions for companies all over the world. But then we also really doubled down in health digitization. And we have a Telus health division that also operates in 30 countries and covers hundreds of millions of lives around the world. And then the third area we really went at was agriculture and consumer goods, and really looking at how we can bring digitization to help food security around the world, and food availability and food reliability. So really thinking about, you can choose to invest anywhere, you can choose to diversify anyway. And we really thought about could we invest in a way that can help solve some of the world's problems. And then, all the normal things in our domestic telco, around IoT, enhanced services, managed services, security. We have an incredibly broad breadth of products where we really go across the wireless and wireline environment and all the managed service layers. And to the point that was just brought up, collaboration is really the key to it. We don't do everything ourselves, and we really look at ourselves as the conductor on behalf of the consumer or on behalf of the business, where we find the best of breed partner in everything that our customers are trying to do and help bring them to the marketplace.
Wonderful. And Thierry, how about Bell Labs? How are you guys thinking about a world beyond connectivity?
So certainly from my responsibility leading Bell Labs Solutions research, our mission is really to do research on new technologies, new markets, new customer segments, new business models that have the potential to grow the portfolio of product solutions that Nokia has. So when we talk about new technologies, of course, we'll look at AI. We also look at blockchain, Web3, new device technologies. And some of that applies to the networking portfolio we have right now, but also when we think about new markets and new customer segments, we're spending a lot of effort on the research side to look at enterprise and industrial applications, Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0, and what are the technologies that we can invent on the research side beyond connectivity and beyond the compute platforms to solve some of the industrial automation challenges. And I think at that point, you're talking about what do you need to do to improve productivity or efficiency or safety in an industrial environment. An industrial environment, I mean like factories, ports, harbors, university campuses, hospitals, utilities, transportation hubs, logistics hubs, and so forth. And you need to start with connectivity, but ultimately, if your business problem is to improve efficiency or reduce incidents and accidents, you need additional technologies. So we're looking at creating those technologies to solve those problems. And we think connectivity, it starts with connecting everything in your environment, but ultimately you want a 360 full awareness, situation awareness of what's going on in your environment, and you need additional technologies. And connectivity is the starting point, but then you also want to know where all your stuff is that you connect. So localization, positioning, tracking, and really building digital twins, essentially, of your physical environment.
So very much in the sort of intelligent industry platform space.
Yeah, exactly. And once you capture that, you need AI to understand what actually is in your environment. What are the objects? What are their physical world properties? How can you play what if scenarios on that environment? What happens if I reconfigure my factory floor? And you want to do that in the digital domain before you put it into the physical domain.
Do you think there's a route through that as well, where you could actually execute commands? So there's one route through that says you're going to have a massive information that's coming back that you need AI to help you make sense of in a sensible way. And you might want to then query that through a useful AI-enabled UX at the front end. So it's not everything needs to be tons of screens these days. Do you think there's also going to be, in the not too distant future, ways to then send commands back into that system?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a research project on something we call industrial GPT. Which is basically you have an automated system of capturing your physical environment, learning everything that's in it. Extracting the meaning of what are these objects, what can they do, but then have a natural language interface where you can ask questions. And so one example is, let's say I have a factory and I know I have a bunch of objects, I have a fire extinguisher there. But I can now query it and saying, I see smoke. What should I do? And it interprets that smoke means fire, and I've seen a fire extinguisher. Now the robot is now going to find the fire extinguisher. So I'm not asking it, where is my fire extinguisher? I don't necessarily know what's in the environment, but I'm asking a question, and it interprets the intent of that question, translates it into actions in the physical world to then go find the fire extinguisher, and then it can execute then actions based on that as well.
I love that.
It's an excellent example of IT/OT convergence and bringing those worlds together. And it's a thing that a lot of people are chasing. And when you get it right, you can do very powerful things, like a use case you just said there, which is if I understand my entire technology landscape, OT and IT together, you can do much more clever things, especially when you're thinking about dockside enablement and such like, where you're doing heavy manufacturing. Time can be lost just through a basic error, but if you connect everything together, that error can be avoided. So huge gains for those types of organizations.
Absolutely. Completely subscribe to that. I think the intersection between IT, OT, enabled by computing, networking, and AI is really going to be powerful.
So Ash, to both of the points that are being made at the moment, in the sense of what Praveen was talking about earlier around collaboration in the market, and then particularly when you're looking at exploits like IT/OT convergence and the complexity that's involved in that, collaboration's natural in that sort of space, isn't it? What are you guys seeing?
Yeah, I mean, look, so Colt as an organisation is very focused at the B2B market. So we don't do managed IT services. We are very restricted in terms of, we're very focused in terms of what our go-to-market strategies are and how we help our customers. But at the same time, AI is clearly a hot topic for our customers in terms of how connectivity plays a part. And the reality is that none of this actually works without the underlying infrastructure and the fiber cables that we have running across Europe and across the globe. And what we're starting to see in that partner ecosystem is that it's not just enterprise customers, it's also their strategic SI partners, it's the application estate that you're using the data plane that you've got as well, and then the underlying infrastructure in terms of how the connectivity kind of joins all of that ecosystem together. So we're in quite advanced conversation with many of our customers about how do we help them join those conversations, but more importantly, how data is now flowing across the network, and it's nowhere near the way the hub and spoke network that we used to remember before, because actually your large language models, small language models could be much closer to the users, and your users are now no longer in the normal location of the office. They could be anywhere around the world and trying to interact with that. So that's quite interesting because it's changing the application landscape, it's changing the data landscape, it's changing the network landscape as we see it today as well, and that's quite exciting. The other piece to this as well is that internally within Colt, what we're thinking about AI, two things. One is how do we help our organisation? Telcos are squeezed for profitability, so there's that part. But actually what we're now starting to do is understand how we can possibly monetize our network to enable more AI models as they proliferate across the organisation. So we fully expect these the smaller language models to get closer to the users, and therefore how can we use the network to empower that and enable that as we go forward as well. So we're spending quite a lot of time understanding how that will work in the future, and how that plays out as well.
Well, let's bridge into AI a little bit. On day one of the conference, we talked to IDC and we talked through 5 trends that IDC is saying. It won't surprise you to hear that AI is one of those trends. And they'd broken AI down into 3 sections. AI that's being done to telecommunications companies, AI that's done inside of telecommunications companies, and then AI that are being provided as new services from telcos. Heather, I wonder if that resonates with you as a way to sort of break the problem down.
Yeah, it certainly does. We're doing all 3 of those things quite aggressively. And how we went about it, we actually started our journey. I won't even say we started our AI journey. We started our data journey. I think too many people forget that AI only works if you've got good data. Yeah. So we started that a number of years ago and literally bought petabytes of data together in terms of how we could structure our data. And we created an AI environment for ourselves that is secure, it's multimodal, it's private, and it allows us to use all the benefits of the large language and generative AI models while protecting our data and protecting our information. And that had a lot of value for that. And we've run use cases in a very democratized way out through our organization.
So that's something you use in internal data, training a model internally.
Yeah, so that we take and so we have use cases. The other thing we did, which was really interesting, is we opened it up almost like a sandbox environment for all of our employees across the entity, the larger entity, and they could bring forward use cases. One of the things we think is really interesting, and as I walk around MWC, it's really been on my mind, is we believe the real power in AI is not falling in love with AI, it's falling in love with your business problem.
Right.
And falling in love with your business opportunity and then saying, okay, is this an opportunity that AI can help me solve? Is this an opportunity that AI can help me capture? So
I was going to say, when you threw the doors open to the crowd and you sourced it, did you? We often talk about the amount of creativity that brings back, that you never thought people would come up with that idea. Was that quite surprising when you went through that and you went, wow, I didn't think of that? Absolutely.
The other thing that was really interesting is obviously you have a certain capacity to build out use cases. So we really democratized that, where people had to...
Like a vote.
People had to bring forward their business opportunity, their problem, and then it would be rated. And based on how many points you got, you could get that funded or not. And so then you had to go back, and people went back and said, oh, I need to get more points. How am I going to fix it? How am I going to improve this? And what made that really interesting is it really kept people focused on, we're not looking for you to come with an idea of how to use AI. We're looking for you to come forward with what's a real opportunity or problem you need solved. And so that really helped us do that. And so we've run out use cases from our customer experience environment to our HR department to our legal team. Inside one of my groups, they use it for sales pitching and sales coaching. So we've got use cases all through the organization, our technician training. It's delivered a tremendous amount of benefits. One of the other things, in the IDC is how few are seeing the benefits. And I'm happy to say we're really seeing tangible benefits in our company. Tremendous. And then the third thing we did with that is it was working really well for us. And so, as I mentioned with our company Telus Digital, we've actually packaged that up into a service that I actually sell it to enterprise customers across Canada. We sell it to other telcos around the globe. And now we're getting our customers able to set that up. And we really paid attention to the security of it. We were the first in the world to be certified with ISO Privacy by Design. We have cybersecurity certification around our AI platform. So now it's a meaneful business for us as well.
How detailed are those business cases? Because I see a
Not
lot of
detailed.
Well, I think that's
they're paragraphs.
Okay, cool.
And so anyone can bring one forward. And anyone. And so, as an example, the one that we rolled out with our technicians, which helps if you think of a technician in the field who walks in, it's really great if they walk into an enterprise customer's environment and they see, the LAN switch or the SD or the SASE switch that we rolled out last week, because they're really well trained on that. But often, unfortunately, they walk in and they see one that's rolled out that they've never seen before because it's 8 years old. And so, and then they've got to call in, the tier 3 and everything else. And so one of the really successful use cases we've had is how they can actually use AI in that environment to tell them all the things they need to do. And so we bring down tier 3 and more importantly, get customer resolution faster because we don't have to bring in a second tech. And that one was actually just bubbled up from a technician going, I don't know what to do when I see something that I don't recognize. And we kind of went, wow, that's a really neat thing. We could use AI for this. And so, so it's not like they're not, I know you're landing on the moon this week, but it's not rocket science, right? Like the solution's rocket science, but the business opportunity is not. And so by democratizing the business opportunity, I think that's how you get the payback.
Ash, how are you seeing AI being used in the network itself in Colt? We've seen case studies, we've talked about case studies this week, particularly in things like radio networks where you might have a proliferation around like a sports game or a concert or something where AI can be used in the network to like redistribute capacity and things like that. Are you seeing that in live yet? What does it look like from your seat?
So we are doing some proof of concepts as we speak right now, right? So there's a couple of use cases that we can see that our customers are quite interested in. So one of them is green pathing and using AI to figure out which is the right path to send traffic based on your carbon footprint expectations, right? So we're doing that. The other one is about self-healing networks, right? We know that with all the telemetry that we collect across the network, there are easy ways in terms of rerouting traffic, but actually requires a bit more intelligence and reasoning behind it. And that's where, again, AI models can start to play a part. So we are trialing some of those aspects as well as we go along. But actually, one of the things that I came across in the last 24 hours, which is a nice little diagram, and I love a diagram because a picture paints 1,000 words. But one thing that I kind of take away from all this is there's no one size fits all, right? And what we're starting to think about very carefully is that where do you want your AI models to exist? Is it down application verticals or horizontal across your organization? And there are domain specific intelligence that you need to kind of think about as well. And it was kind of this 3-bucket approach that really struck my mind, is that there are things that you just take from AI models. There are things that you take an AI model and you shape to what you want it to do. And then the third one is you build based on what your business problems may be. And I think sometimes you get caught into the building cycle because you've got lots of great technicians and developers, but actually that might not be sustainable in the longer term. So the question is that how do you think about your opportunities from AI, put them back in those 3 buckets, and then go down your business process, because actually what you're trying to solve is business problems. And AI is just one more tool that you could use in many of the things that you've got in your organization. So just on that.
Yeah, on the topic of, what the customers want, right? Solving a business problem. Your B2B customers, are they explicit about what they're expecting from telcos with respect to AI? Or they're just saying, hey, you know what, I'm still figuring it out?
I think that they are talking to us in a very transactional format at this point in time. They haven't connected the dots that actually the network could play a really important part when you're architecting where your models may exist in the future, where your data planes are. As a result of that, you're going back to a natural conversation that I need an SD-WAN or I need a 100 meg connection in a particular location. But when you ask the question why, it could well be that they're doing some development work. They might be introducing different kind of AI models in some capacity or another. We haven't connected those dots yet. And I don't think enterprises have connected the dots yet.
I think to that point is for human imagination to work and properly understand what they can do, I think they need to see examples proliferate. And I think we're in that stage now where we're seeing the real world scaled things happening. People understand that, and then they can move their mindset on to what can this actually really do for me now. I think we need to go through that learning process. So I'm not surprised it's a bit confused. And they go back to what they know. Yeah.
And actually, recently we ran a survey of 1,000 plus enterprise customers. Actually, that survey was released just yesterday. And the first thing that the customers say, and we asked them that, what do you expect from a telecom company? First thing that the customer said, solution centricity. Come to me with solutions. Don't come to me about one technology, this connectivity bit. So that came out like loud and clear. There are a couple of other things that are very related. I won't go through all the list, but second one was collaboration. That they said, hey, you know what? Orchestrate the ecosystem for me. Solve it for me. You're already inside my IT department. And then the innovation, right? Bring the best technologies. They're all very linked, but they're expecting telecom companies also to come and give them those.
And that's forcing organizations to move around the value chain, isn't it? So roles that we would traditionally expect another organization to do are suddenly landing at your door saying, hang on, I expect you to do this now. So you want more from the single organization as opposed to maybe bring multiple roles in, because sometimes there is simplicity in asking one entity to do the work as opposed to, trying to bring three together.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think, and then what you said about the survey, it certainly resonates with me in terms of what we're hearing from our customers. But I also don't think that's new, right? Like, I've worked my whole career in both consumer B2C, B2B. I've been a CEO of 2 organizations. I've worked in IT and telecommunications over the years, and if you think of a business, whether you're an individual sole proprietor or you're a C-suite of one of the world's largest companies, every day during the day, there's only 5 things you're trying to do, right? You're either trying to improve your end customer experience, you're trying to make the place better for your employees in some way, you're trying to make yourself more operationally efficient, you're trying to reduce your cost, or you're trying to meet your risk goals or your sustainable ESG goals and something that some auditor or some oversight body is requiring of you. And so if you walk into those entities with that in mind and you think of, okay, so how does what I do help you with one of those things, then that resonates. And no one, and it's the same thing. If someone's coming in and selling me a product, a non-telco product, and they come in and they start pitching me on the benefits of their product or why the product's going to go, and they can't link it to one of those things that's on my mind, then they're wasting my time.
Yeah, it's not feeling relevant.
It's not new.
Validation is key, right? Validating the assumptions, because yes, we do know a lot because we are years and years we are in the ecosystem. So you would assume that we know what the real problems are. But I think validating that assumption and really go into co-creation, because I hear a lot about partnerships and ecosystems, but in the end it's people doing business with people. Do you see things happening there? Is the culture changing from competitor to collaboration? Is that something that you see?
I mean, for us, absolutely. I mean, we sell connectivity with our partner ecosystem. We sell it directly to enterprise customers, GCNs and things. You have to. There's no scenario, I don't think, in today's world, the way commerce is being done, that you can just, on your own, generate the value that your customers are kind of looking for. So I think there is more collaboration that has to be done. And some of it is being done because of just the way the pieces are done. I do think that the 5 things that you pointed out, I think there's one other thing that's changing the dynamics in conversation for us as a telco, is just the geopolitical landscape that we sit in today.
Well, I'm from Canada,
Yeah.
so talk to me about that today.
Say no more.
But how the world has changed.
Yes.
In a few weeks.
In a few days, I think, was it 25? But that's the reason why I think also the partner ecosystem is quite interesting, because it's now coming down to values and behaviours. It's coming down to the business that you want to do and the markets that you want to serve, and does that fit into what you're thinking is the right thing to do from a societal perspective as well?
To that point exactly, and also a little bit there to your point, Heather, the changing geopolitics has definitely brought, I think, sovereign concepts way to the top of the agenda, hasn't it?
Sure has.
Where previously globalized thinking, sovereign cloud, for example, to me always looked a little bit to the side, but now things like sovereign digital supply chains, sovereign sovereign data, and then most recently sovereign AI
Sovereign compute.
and sovereign compute have become very significant concerns. And it seems to me that telcos are very well placed to establish kind of sovereign boundaries. I don't know whether you got Thierry. Why don't I come to you on that? Have you got any view on that?
No, that's a particular point from a research perspective. I don't want to get into the geopolitical part, but I want to comment on the collaboration and your point about the validation. For us as a research organization, it is really, really important to collaborate. First, we want to understand what the real world problems are. It's really important as an industrial research lab that we're not doing academic type research, but we do industrial research that is solving hard real world problem that have demonstrable impact to society and industry. And that demonstrable impact can only come if you validate it outside of the labs. So collaboration with partners, whether it's our traditional customers, whether it's service providers, whether it's enterprise, it's really important so that we take the research out of a lab and we put it in the real world. Because you can never validate the technology at full scale in the lab. And the real world is much more complex and messier than any lab environment you build. So that collaboration part is important, but it also allows us to accelerate then how we translate the research from the research lab into a commercial track. And so we, for example, a couple of months back, we announced a partnership with between Bell Labs and EN to look at AI solutions and collaborate with them on real-world applications of AI based on technologies that we have invented, but that we're co-creating and collaborating with them on taking it from research stage to real-world proof of concept and ultimately to commercial deployments.
Terrific. Thank you for that. And I wonder if there was a position, Heather, you had, or a view you had on the notion of sovereign at the moment, sovereign AI and things like that, and the positioning of telcos within that?
Yeah, I do think we're uniquely positioned. So first of all, depending on which country you've been in, the idea of sovereignty, in particular with respect to data, has been on the radar of most telcos for many, many years, because privacy legislation has been territorial, and so we've had to be really concerned with how we make sure that the data that needs to stay in a certain territory is able to stay and be accessed only from the territories that can legally have access. So I think for the most part, we're very, very well versed in that. And I do think that we have assets and availability to how we can help in the areas of sovereign AI and sovereign compute. And we also understand cloud extremely, extraordinarily well. It's interesting because I know it doesn't come up very often, but telcos are the original cloud vendor. Like the telecommunications network is the cloud. And so we've had to protect our network cloud for decades, maybe more than decades. And now we know how to protect, so we know how to protect IT cloud. And so I think it's a natural fit for us and something that is probably less scary to us than some others who haven't had to operate in that environment over many, many years. Because there's a huge infrastructure you have to have as a cloud provider to be able to make sure that you're doing sovereignty right. And it has been a discussion with certain groups of customers, and it's now becoming a discussion across customers who weren't asking about it before.
Right, I bet. And Ash, it seems to me that it goes hand in hand with one of the other S's, which is security and thinking about cyber in the network, especially with further new tech on the horizon like quantum. I wonder what you guys are thinking about all of that.
Yeah, we're doing quite a lot of work on the quantum security and into the network side as well. So we've got a number of proof of concepts for our network engineering folks. I do think that the cyber security challenge that we've got today is far more difficult to manage. And whilst the networks have been set up in a way that, we're all routing traffic with a lot of trust with one another.
Seems to me that cyber is one of those situations that it's never going to be easier than today.
Yes.
It's one of those continuingly complexing problems.
Correct. And that's because the computation's increasing, the complexity of the models, and actually the models can rewrite themselves to, attack another vector that you've not even thought about in some way. And at the same time, you've got proactive measures to protect against that as well. So it's like a little bit of a cyber warfare going on without you even realise it's actually happening in the piece. So I think I think it's a hot topic to watch, because I think many organisations have doubled down on using the internet because it's good enough to service their business processes, to access applications. It wouldn't take much to change that thought process, which means that, again, everyone's looking back at the network to think about, do I need more point-to-point networks again, because I can't trust the internet, the level that we're trusting it today. And just finally on that point, sovereign network, sovereign data, yes, in theory, it sounds that we've got the right components to make it happen, but the reality is that the way that global processes are working today, the way in which we're using emails, the way we're using our CRM platforms, the way we use our finance platforms, well, actually, they're breaking all the boundaries every single day because of the way that your customers moving around as well. So I think it's something that's going to be more thought needs to be done in that space.
Why don't I add another S to that? That is sustainability. A couple of years ago, when we were at MWC, sustainability was everywhere, at the center of most of the booths. What do you think this year? Is sustainability is still at the center, or has it slightly changed? Any thoughts on that?
It's a really good point, because as you walk around Mobile World Congress, I don't think I've seen the word sustainability that often. And that's probably a stark difference to a year before. And I think that there are certain movements going on at the moment that suddenly that's not so much so important. Actually, driving growth and business is more important at the moment. And I think that's the reality of what we're living in at the moment. But just to go back to Colt, it's a conversation with at the exec level that it will continue to be at the heart of everything that we do, and will continue to drive down our overall carbon footprint. And that's not something we're going to let go.
I think
Awesome to hear that, yeah.
With sustainability, because it's been around for a bit longer than, say, AI, or the generative AI side, I should say, because AI has been around for a while, it sets itself into everybody's perma-memory, and it's then baked into a lot of stuff, so maybe we don't feel the need to talk about it so much, and there's a new buzzword, and we're all a bit like magpies and rush to the shiny thing. But I do think there has been a massive shift in people's thinking to, it's always there at the back of your mind. It's considered, it's baked in. So I think we're also seeing that effect kick in.
And I think we mentioned this in the previous one of the previous podcasts, that actually from a Colt perspective, sustainability isn't just about tick the box. Yeah. Actually, we see value in going down that path because it saves us money.
Integrated
but also we can
into
pass
your
that on to pass that on to our customer base as well. So actually, it's not about just ticking the box, but actually there's value by doing it as well.
So I've actually seen not the word sustainability, but the topic come up quite a bit in AI conversations this week. Sure, yeah. Sure, we see all the benefit from AI. Everybody wants to use AI, but are we going to be able to power all the AI systems that we're building? So it's come in that context. And I'm not sure that comes in from a sustainability or a business perspective, but the energy aspect of AI is definitely part of all the conversations.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to circle back on the cybersecurity elements of it. With both AI and quantum compute, it's something we're spending a lot of time at. You think of, AI vis-a-vis cybersecurity, and it's got a lot of different flavors, right? Like AI is something we can use to help improve our cybersecurity stance, while at the same time, AI is making us easier to be attacked and is being used by our attackers. We've got to protect against it. And AI, in structuring our data, we should be able to protect our data better. But at the same time, AI makes our data more vulnerable. Right. And then we have, when we're using AI can itself, if it's not done properly, create vulnerabilities that you don't know are even being created. So it makes the whole area of cyber very, very different, very, very different. Then you layer on top of that the evolution of quantum, and you think of what quantum is going to be able to do within, I don't know, you would know more, but for sure, in my view, within the next decade, I don't know, within 5 years, in terms of its ability to break our encryption models as we know them, in terms of its able to accelerate penetration. So, I mean, the area of cyber and AI and quantum as it comes together, I personally find very, very fascinating. And we're really active in it. And, we're funding a lot of research institutes who are doing really interesting research in the area of quantum compute and quantum security. And, I think we all should be watching it closely.
Well, I think that's maybe a nice place to pause, because I do think it is the big ongoing watch. The intersection of those two technologies in particular, I think are, world changing with a capital W. But we'll wrap it up for today. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon and to sharing your observations and insights. I do have one last question. It's quite an important one, which is we're in Barcelona, and of course the tapas is the traditional way of doing it. I want your views on tapas. Now, not necessarily from a like or don't like, but feel free to share that. But where are you on the whole sharing your plates of food thing? Do you prefer just a starter and a main course or an entree? Or do you prefer like the whole put it down the middle of the table? Now, the reason we ask this is because we've got a split view in the podcast team. And we're doing a scientific study to try and understand where everybody else falls on it. So let's just quickly go around the table. Ash, where do you stand? Do you like the sharing thing, or you're not a fan of the sharing thing?
100% sharing, because I don't like the thought of missing out.
No, but if you didn't share, then you wouldn't miss out, because you'd have your own. You want one of every. Oh, so you're the person who nicks it all.
That's it.
So you're my enemy.
I mean,
You're my tapas enemy.
It's taken this much effort.
Do we realise who is the non-tapas person now in the room?
You just revealed yourself.
Yeah. I was trying to leave that all a bit mysterious. Like, help yourself. Thierry, where are you on the whole to share or not to share?
Definitely to share.
We're getting a vibe here, Rob, right?
I'm not coming out well in this scientific study, am I?
I just want to have one of each and try as many as I can.
There you go. That's the beauty of it, isn't it? Expand your horizons. Have a social experience, Heather, where are you?
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I'm from Newfoundland, so we're a very family-style eaters, so it works for me. We eat off each other's plates all the time, so tapas is a natural extension for us.
I need to avoid Newfoundland now. That's for sure as well.
You don't want to go there because you're only getting shared plates there.
That's his takeaway from this conversation.
By the way, even when you order your own plate, the person next to you is going to take some.
I am a massive fan of Canada. Love a Tim Hortons, but the sharing thing, that's just scared me a little bit.
I just love the way that's your takeaway from this. Praveen.
You know what? Let me help Rob a bit. So if it is about tapas, absolutely sharing. But one thing I don't want to share is my wine.
Oh, there you go.
No, that's fair. I can get behind that. All right, look, let's wrap it up. But the final thing I did want to cover, because it is just so amazing, is Thierry, I know you have to leave MWC early this year, don't you? What are you up to?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to leave early because we're about to deploy the first cellular network on the moon.
I mean, that is...
You can't beat that.
Now, you could say why.
That's where I was going to go.
I anticipated your question there. I think it's... if you look at the space exploration, whether it's moon, beyond the moon on Mars, or just space in general, I think... with all the missions that are going to space, whether it's government or commercial, from any country in the world, really, everybody wants to get into space. And when we think about that, it's absolutely clear that no mission will be successful without advanced comms capabilities. Right. And it's not just when we have a fully deployed lunar economy, but really any mission for scientific exploration, robotic assets, and then certainly when you have astronauts, every mission needs communication capabilities. And as a communication company on Earth, our view is we should take the same technologies. We should leverage cellular technologies, which, quite frankly, are the most advanced communication capabilities we know and we've built. We should leverage all that knowledge and investment for the benefit of space. We should not use legacy technologies, and we should not reinvent the wheel. So we've set out on this journey with NASA and a couple of space companies to prove that thesis that we can actually take cellular technologies, adapt them, because it's not going to be the same network that you built on Earth, but it's based on the same technologies, but just reconceptualized completely on what such a network looks like. And we take that to the moon, we validate that we can deploy it, we can operate it. So as we speak, we're in lunar orbit. We launched from Kennedy Space Center last Wednesday. Wow. We're in lunar orbit right now, and we'll be landing on Thursday. And hopefully the network will work and connect two vehicles on the lunar surface with wireless links.
awesome.
That's very cool. It's nice to know you'll be able to watch TikTok on the moon soon as well. That's thank you for that.
And very briefly, how is it going to work? Is it presumably it's all robotic? How do you actually get the thing down there and installed, or is it literally you're just going to have 2 units that are going to try and communicate?
No, so we have the full communication system has what we call a network in a box, which is basically your entire cellular network integrated into something like a small pizza box. It has all your radio, your baseband up to the core, all integrated in the network in the box. That's installed on the lunar lander that will land on the surface. The lunar lander will then deploy 2 vehicles, one rover that drives on the surface and one hopper that, as the name suggests, will hop on the surface and hop into a crater. And both of those have a UE that we developed.
Right.
And then so the communication is from the vehicles through the UE to the network. And in the other direction, you can then send command and control messages. And from the vehicles, you get all the sensor data, the scientific experimental data, video, high resolution images, and so forth.
Amazing.
That is so cool. So I have a question, which is probably a really dumb question. But is there spectrum on the moon?
That's not a dumb question. That's a really, really good question. I think that's still an open question on the spectrum, who owns the spectrum, and so forth. For this particular one, we worked with NASA, FCC, ITU, and NTIA, and we got a waiver. But there's some spectrum, some bands that have been identified as bands for operation on the moon.
So that's the ownership of spectrum, but like there is spectrum on the moon, like physically, like it exists on the moon.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought you were asking from a regulatory perspective.
No, that would have been my next
Yeah.
question.
I mean, if the regulators had got there first, that would be really impressive. Maybe not
It
surprising.
lands and there's somebody with a clipboard going, "Oh no, you're not allowed to do that."
We need an auction.
But one of the things that we're really interested beyond just demonstrating that the network works and we get all this amazing data back, it's take measurements of the propagation environment on the moon. Because nobody's ever taken measurements of RF environments on the moon. We have models, channel propagation models we've developed. NASA and JPL have models. We've calibrated our models against each other, but they're still models. Nobody's taken measurements. So we're really looking forward to take all these this data from the operation of the network and then really use that to calibrate the models we have against real-world measurements. And that will be really important for future mission planning and network design and so forth. So, it will be different, but...
well, look, we wish you all the luck in the world with that. And just to finish off,
Thank you.
It might surprise you to hear, Thierry, that you're not the only space expert in the room.
We were talking about the cost of rocket launches, and I forgot the other side of the statistic.
Yeah.
So I said, adjusted for dollars, a Saturn V cost $1 billion every launch, and then I forgot the bit about what it costs now. So I will now reveal to the audience to actually make it relevant is it can be as low as 10 million for a launch now to get something up in space.
There we go. Brings our week to a conclusion, and thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. And we are back in the room. So we come to the end of our
Telco journey. A
3
voyage.
days of shows.
A voyage, David. It's a voyage.
Always is. Are you feeling weather-worn, Roberto?
I'll be glad to get home if that's what you're...
I noticed that each day of the telecoms, your dress code has gone down. So you started with...
He's going to leave with flip-flops.
Maximising shareholder value day one.
Yeah,
What would you call me yesterday then?
I would say yesterday you are hybrid, new economy, digital economy,
And now
and traditional economy. And it's the beachwear today
the flip-flops.
that has really
Shorts.
surprised everybody.
Yeah. Bright colours as well.
I mean, it must be chilly in a thong.
Let's just leave the mental image there, shall we?
I mean, it's quite something, isn't it? Right. So
Sorry, I'm still with the visual image of.
I mean, it's not just there's not just a visual image. We're sat opposite that.
Yeah.
Dear listener, for the avoidance of doubt, Dave might be exaggerating my dress code.
He's not.
So, end of your first week of lives, Esmee.
I'm actually very inspired.
What by?
It's obviously not us.
This is not loosely coupled or any way connected to Rob's outfit. No, I'm inspired by what I've been seeing on this conference in the past days. On multiple levels. Yes, end user experience is the most important one, I think. You look at foldable phones, you look at machines that are doing stuff like, oh, this is fluent, this is going to be flawless experience. So I love that. But I'm also mostly inspired by the fact that I see so many organizations work together in the ecosystem. And I think that's such a huge win for all of us.
You mentioned that a couple of times. What
Yeah, I do.
particularly resonates with you?
Well, because I've been a partner manager in the past, and real close collaboration always comes down to people wanting to do business with each other. And in the end, it's quite complex if you have so many different scorecards or values or whatever, types of organizations with other levels of maturity.
Right.
And now it feels like what we all say, if we have a common purpose or a common goal, that's where we're united. And it feels also with everything that's going on in the world, it feels that we're finding like a collective base to do things better. But it's no question that we can do it by ourselves or that we should do it together. That's not
Conference fatigue, that.
Yeah, it is.
Like right there.
Yeah, you're
Sorry.
just like, there's something there and you're
I
like...
thought I could avoid it, but
It's
like
easily done. It's
No, Dave,
easily
you're having a
done.
jolly in Barcelona.
I had a... Yeah, right.
jolly.
I had a memory wipe moment yesterday in one of the conversations where I was Rob was making a point about sovereign AI, which it was actually where I was going to go next to the conversation. I ended up just like listening to Rob, and by the time he'd finished banging on, I was like, "Oh, we haven't finished. I've got to come up with something." Like staring at Robert.
There you go.
Hard to look at you today, though, in that outfit. It has to be said. It's like staring into the sun, isn't it?
You're just jealous that I can carry it off.
I mean, it's a surprise to everyone, Rob.
It's actually like looking at a tennis play, but it's you wearing the same type of outfits. I know you're like more like twins today, to be honest.
Look at that. It's true, actually.
Great minds think
Did you
alike.
wake up like, oh, what would Rob wear? What
I
would
think
Dave
that every
wear?
morning when I wake up, don't you?
Oh, we're texting each other in the morning saying, what's
everyone-
outfit you're going to have
everyone does
today?
that.
Including pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, morning, sweetheart. How you doing? Right, so we started the week well, I thought. We had IDC on, who took us through the trends that they're seeing in the sector. And what I found interesting all week with most of the conversations we've had, yes, they've been telecom-centric, and we've done a fair bit of telecoms during this season of the shows as something to focus on, because we think it is a very interesting microcosm of what's going on, and also it represents an area of the industry which used to be commoditized and is now actually repositioning itself. So as a reminder, IDC talked about the investment in physical networks reducing. So we're getting to the end of fiber deployments in a lot of, certainly Western locations. I'm sure around the world there's still a great deal to do on that. 5G is largely deployed, though there's still some investment in 5G core. Then we talked about structural transformation, which is particularly in Europe, regulation in lots of different sort of state nations may be hampering some investment. Rob, there was a bit of chat about this week, wasn't there? So.
Yeah, in the 90s, Clinton administration changed the regulatory framework for telcos, and that's had a dramatic impact on their ability and performance over there. Conversations rising now to say we need some form of change in the framework to be able to allow telcos to propel themselves forward. Ever more important when they adopt the sovereign role that we've been discussing all week. So regulation, it's my favourite subject, David, has to change, has to update itself. The regulator will have to, work out a new way to allow the telcos to be able to deliver the new services they want, but do it in a way that's appropriate and safe and secure and respectful to society.
Yeah, and of course that the regulatory race, if you like, is evident in the world of data. It has been in the world of data for quite some time, and of course evident in the world of AI and how that's evolving. We'll come back to that in a second. The second, we've already touched on a little bit. IDC were talking specifically about satellite partnerships, but Esmee, to your point, partnerships generally seem to have bubbled along quite a bit.
I think actually the round table showed it all. the way that we, talk to each other, the way they share visions. There's a lot of collective, as I said before, there a lot in the collective is now joined on the same topics, but they also value each other. And I think that's the most important part. They all understand the layers, end to end, from infra to all the way down to the end user. They need each other, but they actually value what others bring. And I love that. And maybe I'm just high on, I don't know, maybe
Sangria.
Yeah, could be. And sleep and spending so much time with you guys.
Yeah.
But as I said,
that would make anyone delighted, wouldn't it?
well, like the hope of yesterday is still the hope of tomorrow. I also hope. Yeah.
Well said. Now, also in the roundtable, while we're on it and while we're talking about satellite partnerships in particular, conversation of the week, hard to deny.
Absolutely.
Involves space exploration and dropping a mobile network on the
Anybody
moon.
that says, I've got to leave early because we're in lunar orbit and I've got to get there for the landing. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard a better excuse.
It's a
How
great
good is
excuse,
that out of office, by the way? Sorry. Cannot reply to your email
Sorry,
right
landing
now.
on the moon. Yeah. That was just amazing. The fact that they're thinking really far ahead, saying we're going to need this type of infrastructure up there. We're going into space more and more. The economics are working a lot better when I do remember my facts and figures correctly. It was 1 billion.
I heard
10 million.
it's miles cheaper to get there now.
It is.
Yeah.
Turns out it's 10 million. But this is laying the first foundation for our ability to operate much more effectively when we're up there. So very exciting.
What do you think about that, Marcel?
Exploring sort of space, that was really amazing. That really made a sort of drop my mouth to the floor. It was really amazing. And then that's the best excuse I've ever heard to leave a meeting or a conference.
Maybe, right now, strategy.
We have a moon landing.
Can we create wild experiences like that to get out of Dodge?
I think we should.
I think we should start to play with that. I think I might have cracked on something there.
I also knocked a can of Coke over during that recording.
You threw it all over me, Dave. Thanks.
Sorry about that, Rob.
Yeah, that's all right.
Thank you very much for bailing me out whilst we're in the muck and bullets of the conversation.
As I quietly in the background have to clean up your mess yet again.
You did.
Chalk another one up on the board.
That works on so many levels.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah.
The fourth major trend was programmable networking. Now, they emerged during the week. A lot of layers in this, right?
Yes. There's the whole I can reprogram my own network to be more efficient. There's the angle that says I will open up my network with the API ecosystem to allow others to program it and have different behavior. And then there was the whole AI over the top as well. And then the reuse of the network at night when it's not doing much to do heavy lifting transactions. And you sort of see this change in what was quite a closed ecosystem becoming a much more open ecosystem, and everything is code. We love it. So, Although I did spot the codify versus codify, American versus English thing coming up again.
I mean, codify.
Codify.
That's what you do with a fish.
Yeah, no, but it's the way the Americans versus the Brits and how they pronounce it.
You are right.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Now, who announced on programmable networking this week? There was a number, wasn't there?
Oh, there was loads. Deutsche Telekom, Orange. There was Arcus. There was a massive list. It's clearly something that's going to happen and happen fast. Yeah. If you're the network that can't be programmed or have an API open ecosystem, people are going to go where they can get it. So that feels just like a race now. Everybody said, right, we're doing this, go.
Yeah, real big in that one. And then finally, the robotic elephant in the room, AI crystallizing into multiple different shapes.
Scary one as well.
It's absolutely immense, to be honest with you. IDC put it as something that was AI being done to telcos, AI for telcos and by telcos, which is the stuff that's going on that you need to provide into, whether you like it or not. You've got to get up to speed on it. How you use it, like agentic AI to, make your organization more efficient. Gen AI at the front end, agentic AI to run processes along. I mean, that feels like, literally as of about 4 months ago, we weren't even talking in those terms.
Didn't exist, did it?
Didn't even exist. Now we're like, obviously you're using agentic AI to hyper-automate your processes. It's like, right, we're here. NVIDIA talked about this is the year of scaled AI. We're expecting to see that. at the other hyperscaler conferences as we go through the year. So this is going to be an emerging conversation for sure.
There was also a very scary, well, not scary, well, it probably is, announcement around AI and how it's going to operate in the handset.
Yes.
That I found.
Yes.
So Nunal announced a phone that, if you think about a phone, two-thirds of the screen at the bottom are your traditional phone, and the top is an AI assistant avatar. And it basically tracks everything you do, like your messages, learning everything about you, all your email scans the lot, right? So there's that angle. And then the example they say from all this material, the example they gave was, write my wife a letter for our wedding anniversary, because it's the AI assistant has carefully memorized the chat history with your partner, etc., and can therefore compose a personal, undoubtedly romantic message to your beloved.
What could possibly go wrong with that?
Don't forget the butter.
But it's like this. I can understand that some people who only see the happy path think that's fantastic. But there is a downside to that, David.
But if you say, yeah, that's true. But if you say though that like AI and all of these things are to free up the human to do things, isn't writing to your loved one the thing that you're freeing up your time to do?
So that's the thing, isn't it? It's taking the task you should be doing and turning it into a commodity.
Yeah.
But it's
exactly.
I don't know. I just think.
Well, maybe your partner has also got an AI, and maybe you just don't bother talking to him at all.
They just have the AI interchange. Yeah.
And that gives you more time on your phone to watch your own Netflix shit, doesn't it?
Even more TikTok time. I mean, who doesn't want that? I can watch it on the moon as well now, can't I? So it's like more TikTok. They can shake a stick.
Exactly. It's cheap to get there, I heard.
Yeah, cheap to get there.
Yeah.
There's a good signal up there.
Yeah.
I got all the time in the world. My job's done by the agent I've redeployed at my desk that nobody knows about. There's an agent talking to me family, keeping them interested and excited about me, and I can just keep swiping with my right thumb.
I mean, you paint a beautiful vision of the future to look forward to.
You know what? Funny, the funny part about that is literally the story of WALL-E, where humans become consumed and the system around them does everything for them.
It really is, isn't
But
it?
it's becoming a reality.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
is.
Rob, maybe the only thing you have to do is just lay back, share food and drink.
Oh, no. No, we're not going
That's
that far.
the only thing you have to do in the
It's too
future.
far.
No way you could get around that. And let's come back to that. I just want to cover sovereign AI first, but then we'll come back to one of the key topics of the week. I do want to touch on sovereign AI. It is something that we talked to Chris about on the show. Only hang on a minute. It's gone live, right? That edit point.
Yeah, well, I've gone live by the way.
Yeah, it went live a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, the sovereign AI.
Chris
yeah,
Chris.
Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last week.
Okay, let me do that. Yeah, let me just touch finally on sovereign AI before we come back to the big topic of the week. Now, I mean, literally, we put the Chris Walker sovereign AI conversation out just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's fair to say, unless we'd missed the memo, there wasn't much chat about it then, was there? I mean, we hadn't even had a proper conversation about that.
There's two angles to the sovereign. There's the Chris angle, which is AI for the country and the culture, which is rising. And then there's the sovereign AI, which is my country's able to do AI. And we've discussed both here at the conference. But yeah, it's rising fast. Everybody said, if I've got my own AI architecture, I can create one for me in my language, that represents our nation.
And we've, it's come up, or we've raised it in, I think, every conversation this week, and almost everyone's had something to say about it.
It's perfect fit for telcos, isn't it? They're going, as they go out of the commodity world into the high value world. Suddenly they're sat on top of everything that's needed to be able to deliver it. So happy days for them.
The physicality of all of these virtual things that we talk about.
Huge capital investment over decades. They can leverage it in a different way again.
Yeah.
And it brings it back to the core of why telco is ever, how we ever started using telco in the first place. It's bringing them back to their purpose. Like, then your purpose you can never change, or your reasons of existence. It's connecting people.
And the irony is the fragmentation in telcos that has been discussed. And that was the capital markets point at the beginning of IDC, is actually a strength for this because it's nation state specific.
You're right.
And so what you've got is infrastructure designed and implemented within a nation state that has its boundaries, that's perfect for sovereign.
Well, look, on that note, I think that sums up at least our take on where we're at this year. Like, massive step on from last year's conference, I think.
Huge.
Some incredible threads that I actually think are just going to thread through like I said, the Google conference, the Microsoft conference, and the AWS conference, all of which we're gonna cover this year, I think, on the show. So, all being well. So, yeah, look out for more of that chat. Now, we've been doing some both important. I now consider this important consumer research, but also I think we've developed an architectural framework, which is the Tapas sharing framework version 1.0, which is small packets of, information that gets passed and shared between different human beings, and that, of course, is the power of it now.
Yeah, and it's been validated. I think that's also key. And
we've tested it, we've scrutinized it,
Yep.
tire kicked it,
Yep.
and what we've found is the food's great,
Yep.
but you can have the food in many different ways and many different shapes and sizes. But the thing that I think I'm going to say unanimously came out as the power of the framework was the ability to share. Now, Robert, it's not gone well for you, has it?
No. I mean, there's not much I can say about it, other than I will find my own kind somewhere, and then we can all have our own tapas dishes and be happy together.
You can sit at the same
Not
table,
talking.
and we just, we promise you order your tapas, and we will not touch.
No,
the ones
I
you've
think
chosen.
in Rob's Sapas restaurant,
Sapas.
everyone sits with their back to each other.
You don't talk.
And you just or in booths. Maybe in booths, yeah.
Or there's actually no. I think I'd be slightly more social than that. I would put up perspex dividers between everybody,
It's like
a prison
COVID.
visiting. Yeah,
You wanna go
and
back.
then you can talk to each other through a microphone type thing, but you can't actually reach over and take food off their plate.
Yes.
Maybe that's the thing. That's it.
That's it.
Sapa's restaurant is only a restaurant with one chair.
Just,
Oh, it's a solo. You just go in, one person at a
One
time.
person at a time.
That's the
That's it.
extreme sapas. You got extreme sapas.
On that note, should we go home?
Yes, let's go.
Let's go home.
Thank you.
If you would like to discuss any of the issues on this week's show and how they might impact you and your business, please get in touch with us at cloudrealities@capgemini.com. We're all on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear from you. So feel free to connect and DM if you have any questions for the show to tackle. And of course, please rate and subscribe to our podcast. It really helps us improve the show. A huge thanks to our guests, Oliver, Heather, Thierry, Ashish, and our pod co-host, pod guest, Praveen. Our sound and editing wizards, Ben and Louie, our producer, Marcel, and of course to all our listeners. See you in another reality next week.
Just on the guests, can you also do and all of the other guests this week? Because this is like the day 3 wrap up. So name all today's, but then just go and all of the other guests this week.
Edit point. A huge thanks to our guests Oliver, Heather, Thierry, Ashish, and our part co-host, part guest Praveen, and of course all of the other guests that joined us this week. Our sound and editing wizards, Ben and Louie, thanks again for picking up so fast. You are true savers. Our producer Marcel, and of course to all our listeners. See you in another reality next week.